everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Humble Homestead Life. In today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about what actually started my journey to becoming toxic free. And basically toxic free is trying to remove a lot of the chemicals and things that are in my home, products that I use regularly on a day-to-day basis, eating more organically and things like that. So what started my journey was where we live at in Idaho. We moved to the house we're in now 8 years ago, and it's a cute little home in a small little farming community, which we love. But shortly after we moved in, I realized that there were these trucks coming around, and they were like fogging chemicals towards the evening time. So I kind of asked around, and I figured out that those were mosquito abatement trucks. Now at first I didn't think anything of it, because I was just like, oh cool, you know, they're fogging for the mosquitoes, and so in the evening times, you know, when we're outside, we won't get eaten alive. But little did I know at that time was that we were going to be seeing some drastic changes in not just our homestead, our animals, but in our health as well. So some of the first things we started noticing on our homestead was, number one, I do a small garden every year. Now, I'm not this big professional gardener, but you know, I like to try to grow my own organic food as much as I can for my family. So I noticed that after a couple of years, our garden actually started to deteriorate. We were having issues growing things that the years before we didn't have any issues growing. And so I noticed that, and I knew that we weren't really using chemicals or anything like that in our garden, and so I was just kind of baffled as to why things that grew in years past were no longer growing again. And I was rotating my garden and where I was planting things and trying to do all the proper things. So that was number one. Number two, what we noticed is that we have chickens and we have ducks. And we noticed that a lot of our chickens were starting to have issues. And one of the issues is our chickens were getting paralysis, where they would be fine one day and then just all of a sudden not be able to stand or walk. And I know there's multiple things out there that chickens can get, but I checked my chickens and kind of tried to figure out what was wrong, and really the rest of the flock would be fine, and one chicken would have like paralysis. So that started happening. We started having ducks and chickens that were just dying out in the pasture. We would just go out and find them dead. And then when we were breeding our ducks, because we had male ducks and female ducks, and so we would just let them breed, we would notice that even though they were sitting on fertilized eggs, that we were having a very low birth rate in our ducks. And the first couple of years that we lived here, we hatched like a bunch of ducks. And then the years after that, it just started to dwindle to where maybe like one or two ducks would hatch. So those were some alarming things that we started knowing around our, or noticing around our homestead. Now, the big kicker is when our family's health actually started to deteriorate. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the symptoms we started having. Now, we're a really holistic family. We're rarely ever at the doctor. In fact, I've had a doctor tell me once before that, oh wow, looks like you're only here when you're having babies. And pretty much that's the truth. I mean, I'm never at the doctor. Maybe for an earache in my kids, and that's about it. So we started getting big respiratory issues. We started having dizziness, headache, nausea, diarrhea. We started having massive respiratory issues, coughing, really, really, really bad, to where we actually started going to the doctor, because we were like, why do we keep getting these same symptoms over and over and over? And I remember one day my husband went out to go to work early in the morning, and he called me later, and he's like, man, he's like, I've been coughing, sneezing, and just having a hard time breathing and just really not feeling well, like since I walked out the door this morning, or that day. And so when he went to work, he said as the day wore on, the symptoms started to diminish. And then when he came back home, he started having symptoms again. So these symptoms, because we were all affected, me, my 3 children, my husband, we really started trying to figure out like what is going on like in our family, because before this we were never sick, never with respiratory coughs and breathing issues or anything like that. So with all of these little things adding up, I decided to try to figure out the root cause of all of our symptoms. And what I came to find out is that the mosquito abatement district where we live, which when we moved here, I had no idea there was an abatement district. That might have changed my mind on where we live. But they use 9 different chemicals to abate mosquitoes. They use adulticides, which are like the truck fogging. They do aerial flyovers, where they literally fly a plane 600 feet above my home and spray chemicals. They do that several times throughout the summer. And then they also apply like larvicide pellets and things like on your pasture, any puddles that may be on your property. They actually come on your property with quads and like look for mosquito larvae, which is like a huge like trespassing thing. But anyways, that's a whole nother story with the law and all of that. But anyways, back to the chemicals. I noticed that they have 9 different chemicals. And I contacted the abatement district where I live, and I asked them, what were the chemicals they used. They were very reluctant to tell me. It wasn't posted on their website at the time when all of this started happening. And so finally, after a long, long fight, I was able to get a hold of the safety data sheets and the chemical labels that our mosquito abatement uses. And boy, was my mind blown, because a lot of the chemicals that they use, especially in the aerial and the truck fogging, which they do the truck fogging weekly, those chemicals cause all of the symptoms that my family is having. And a lot of the chemicals that they use contain petroleum distillate, and that causes respiratory, all the symptoms that I said earlier, that petroleum distillate causes all those. And then also dibrom is an aerial one that they use, which actually is a known carcinogen, is cancer causing, is on the Prop 65 for California, and there's just a plethora of other problems that come along with all of these chemicals that they use. So I was so upset about this, because I was like, there's nothing we can do. Like, we're here and we can't move, right now. And, we just have this little small acreage, and I don't really want to move. So that started me on my journey to try to reduce our toxic load, not just for our family's health, but for my homestead, for our water, for our soil, for our animals. And boy, has it been a journey so far. And you guys might be asking, well, how come you're still living there? What happened with the abatement? Well, we still have abatement that comes by once a week and fogs, but Idaho has a law that you can opt out. Unfortunately, we've been told that we cannot opt out of the aerial spray, which I'm actually working on contacting our legislators in Idaho and talking about the law and things like that, and really just trying to bring awareness to people that they do have a right to opt out per Idaho law. But we're fighting with the abatement district because they're not really wanting us to do that. They say that we can't opt out of aerial, we can opt out of limited fogging. So that is what we have done. We have opted out of the limited fogging around our small little property. I will say, and then two, you know, when we know on the schedule that they are going to be fogging, we shut off our AC, we close all of our windows, which obviously helps a lot for our health conditions, but you know, our animals are still getting it, their troughs are still getting the chemicals on them, and because even though they stopped fogging our driveway and around our property, they fog everybody else's driveways, and it travels 300 feet, the fog does. So it's a bummer. It's something that I've been in a lot of prayer over, because ultimately when you're fighting government officials, county officials, it's very, very difficult. Bringing awareness to people is very difficult, and so ultimately it's in God's hands. I'm doing what I can right now where God has placed us to mitigate our toxic load, and so really that's what started my journey. That's what prompted me to dive really deep into chemicals and what they actually do to our bodies. And so not just the chemicals from the abatement, but chemicals in everything around us. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because I am on this journey. We have had health issues, and so we are addressing those as I speak today. And so with prayer and education and knowledge, you know, knowledge is power. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys today. If I've been absent from YouTube, I know I posted some little community post about how I haven't made videos. We've had a lot going on here on the homestead, not just you know, project-wise, but also health-wise, trying to address health issues in our family and in our animals and in our homestead. And so it's a very challenging thing to do, but I want to let you guys know that this is really what prompted my journey. And in the upcoming videos, I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of the things that I have done in our home to reduce our toxic load. And it's going to be interesting, because when you really dive deep and you look into all of the chemicals, there are so many chemicals and so many products that you wouldn't even think would be harmful to you, and they are. They're hormone disruptors. They affect fertility. They cause respiratory issues. They cause cancer. All kinds of things. And so I'm the type of person that is a researcher. I research so much that sometimes I just have to stop and focus on something else, because I can become very overwhelmed and get anxiety over it. But you know, my God is in control. He protects my family. He protects my heart, my body, you know, my mind, and everything concerning me and you. So we plead the blood of Jesus over us, and in the meantime, we do everything else that we possibly can to reduce our toxic load. I hope you found this video informational. I hope it maybe sparked an interest in you, if you're having some issues similar to mine, to dig deep and see what the root cause is, because I really do believe a lot of our issues come from the chemical exposure that we have where we live, and actually everywhere in the world we are inundated with chemicals, even in our food. So it's really kind of a bummer, but you know what? It's up to you and I to take responsibility for our health and do whatever we can to keep our families safe and healthy. So keep an eye out for some upcoming videos with me sharing some of the things I've been doing. Until next time, God bless.